Hey, welcome to Expand Your Us. I'm so glad to have you join me for today. It's the second week of Lent. My kids go to a school that shares the founding belief that a complete education must address the whole child in order to teach kids to thrive in a diverse world. They share my belief that our segregated city separates us, preventing us from the chance to learn from each other. Sharing spaces with different others might not happen often in Nashville, but finding comfort in diverse groups will happen if we regularly seek out those kinds of spaces. Learning to hold on to you when you feel alone in a place is really hard work. It can be uncomfortable in lots of ways, but it's worth it. Because their school knows how hard it can be, they believe that creating places where a lot of different kids interact is not enough. Kids have to be taught how to reach across lines of difference. They have to be taught how to notice their bodies when they feel threatened or defensive or isolated. So do we. They have to be taught how to notice and appreciate the differences in their habits and someone else's normal. When we notice our response to difference, we begin expanding our comfort with discomfort. When we become comfortable with unease, we increase our ability to grow, to build durable relationships, and to collaborate with others to make meaning out of our experiences. So I think of Lent the way I think of entering such a new place where I might feel uneasy and alone. During Lent, what feels normal or even good begins to change, and I learn to imagine a different way of being in the world. I want to slow down in a world that forces me to move too quickly. I want to be in a life that values those who do. I want to ponder in a world that celebrates production. I want to confess among people who cover up their faults. I feel uncomfortable as I notice these tensions in my body, and I feel torn between different ways of ordering my steps. But noticing my discomfort, sitting with my longings, and observing my awareness helps me realize that I've created habits of living that crush me. It's not enough to notice the differences. I want and need to find new patterns of grace, new rhythms of listening to my maker in my body. When we learn to find comfort in the discomfort of diverse people, our eyes open to the wonder of transformative relationships. When we learn to notice our longing for differently paced internal lives, our bodies open up to the presence of God and Spirit, teaching us new ways to be in the world. Give in to this work, appreciating the process of being transformed by God. A week into Lent, a lot of us feel our hope diminishing. Our discipline might have failed us, our focus has faltered. Fasting and sacrifice are hard. Limiting our desires and serving others is hard. Daily choosing stillness, silence, and solitude are hard. Do not give up just because you feel discomfort. Increase your appetite for uncertainty and lean into these practices of stillness and silence and solitude even more. Change might happen slowly, and transformation requires discomfort as you release one way of being in order to embrace a different way of life. Remember that the discomfort doesn't mean it's wrong. It might mean it's working, and it's a necessary step into transformation. So I pray that you can rediscover the presence of your maker in you, and that doing so will help you find a greater capacity to embrace and care for yourself and for others. So this week, the theme is recovery and freedom, and it's a reminder that these things are possible for us. And here are some quotes to sort of guide your thinking, followed by daily verses for each day. Howard Baker wrote, "Silence and solitude are the recovery room for the soul weakened by busyness. In silence and solitude, we regain our perspective, or more importantly, God's perspective." Augustine described it as learning to perform the rhythms of one's life without getting entangled in them. Alone with God in prayerful quiet, the rhythms of life are untangled. And Dante Stewart, in his new book, wrote this: "When Jesus liberates the man, he also intends to liberate the community. They're connected." That's me, that's not Dante Stewart. Here he is again. "He intends to set bodies free from suffering and violence. This represents the hopes of oppressed people all over and the hopes of the life of Jesus. Freedom to be human, freedom to build life, freedom to love, freedom to work, freedom to create joy. And finally, the early African American mystical thinker and spiritual discipline sort of guru said this: whatever may be the tensions and stresses of a particular day, there is always lurking close at hand the trailing beauty, a forgotten joy, or unremembered peace. And so I hope this week that you can remember that forgotten joy, that unremembered peace. I pray that you can lean in, even if you feel like you failed, to these different rhythms of living, and that you would know that your discomfort doesn't mean you're wrong. It might mean actually that you're being transformed. Enjoy Lent.